Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the function from Discmania. Let's go ahead, jump on in by first taking a look at the profile and the feel of the function. Now, the function has a very gentle amount of dome to it. It's not like an extreme pop top, but it has a rounded shoulder that goes into a gentle rounded top. However, despite that rounded shoulder and the gentle amount of dome in the middle of the flight plate, the function actually doesn't feel too deep because in this forged plastic, it is pretty soft and has a good amount of flexibility to it. So no matter backhand or forehand, you can manipulate the profile of the disc to best match your grip. And also in this plastic, just be warned that it is premium, so it will be a little bit slick when wet. But in dry conditions, it did give very good grip. So looking at the flight numbers, the function is a very flippy fairway driver. Speed 8, glide 6, turn -4, and a fade of 1, making it perfect for players with slower arm speeds, for younger players, for older players with those slower arms, or if you're just a player looking for a big turnover, tailwind, or hyzer flipping disc. When thrown with a lot of hyzer, the function is going to flip up to flat very quickly, and depending on how high or what your arm speed is, it'll get a little bit of turn to a good amount of turn before just maybe at the very end checking up. And then when thrown flat, I mean, it's nothing, it has no resistance to torque, so it is just going to start turning almost immediately. And for the first time ever on the channel, you are seeing me throw a backhand roller. That's right, if I can get the function down on the roller, I know you can too. So if you're looking for a fairway driver to use on those medium range roller shots, well then the function is for you. Now, how does the function fly if you have a slower arm speed than even myself? Well, if thrown at about 60% power when thrown on a hyzer, it gets a little bit of flip up, a little bit of turn in the mid-flight before having a much harsher fade. When thrown flat to slight anhyzer line, it still turns almost immediately out of the hand, gets a good meandering turn before having a nice substantial fade. But then once you do get it on that anhyzer line, even when thrown soft, it's still going to hold that turn all the way to the ground. And for forehand, I mean, this is going to be kind of a standstill specialist for those touch forehand shots, just maybe in the woods when you just don't want to give it a lot, because once you start giving it quite a bit of torque, it is going to turn almost immediately, hold that turn, and depending on the height, it really honestly could turn into an incidental roller. So on forehands or just putting a lot of torque on it in general, beware. So what are the best uses for the function? Well, for slower arms, this is going to be a max distance driver because you don't have to give it a lot of effort in order to get S-curving shots. So it's going to be great for distance for those slower arms, something that they can work on a lot of different lines in the woods, or just even for wide open holes where you don't necessarily care where it goes because it has great glide. So you're going to be able to get a lot of just effortless distance. For slower arms, this is going to be a distance cheat code disc. Additionally, for players who are wanting to learn how to hyzer flip, this is going to be a great hyzer flipping tool because it is so easy to hyzer flip. And if you're a faster arm speed player, this is going to be a great disc where if you throw naturally on hyzer, you'll be able to get it to flip up and hold nice controlled turnover shots. But again, if you do have a faster arm, just beware, if you do put this on any kind of like anhyzer line, it's probably going to turn into a roller. I also have to add that it's going to be a great utility disc for players who very often play in the woods. A very overlooked shot by most disc golfers are when you're pinched off against a tree, you don't have a run up, you have to do a patent pending stance, and you don't want to sacrifice a lot of distance. Having a fairway driver understable like this when you're pinched off like that is an amazing tool to have because you know that you're not going to be sacrificing that much distance because you don't need to get that much into the function in order to get it up to speed. Alright, we've seen the function out in the field, but what about on the course? Well, you have a very defined fairway, a lot of trees on the left and right hand side. I'm going to throw the function on a big hyzer, controlling that angle and speed, and just letting it keep pushing forward. It is great for those hyzer flips that you want to keep the disc pushing forward. And as understable as it is, it's perfect for these uphill shots. And for this one, there is that tree on the left that I have to get around. Well, with the function, I know it's going to get turned in that mid-flight, so I can work it around that tree, not even bring it into play, and then have a nice, just straight, slight hyzer finish, keeping me on the fairway. This hole sets up perfect for the function on a nice controlled turnover shot. Just throw it out flat. It'll ride straight enough, just long enough, so that way it'll make it around that corner and then just hold that turn all the way until the basket. Normally a shot like this sets up perfectly for just a simple hyzer. However, if you don't want to accidentally push too far forward into those trees down the fairway, just throw the function on a forehand, because you know it's going to turn over immediately, but then just towards the very end of the flight, it'll sneakily check up, keeping you in that perfect landing zone. As of the making of this video, the function only comes in just the forged plastic. So for the lefty lines, I wanted to compare the function against other understable fairway drivers from other manufacturers. First up, we have the Diamond from Latitude 64, which is a great lightweight understable fairway option. And this is about 15 or so grams lighter than the function, about the mid 150s versus around 172. So yes, the Diamond is going to consistently get more turn in that mid-flight than the function. And depending on the height that you give it, you might be able to get some sneaky fade back. Whereas the F9 from Prodigy, that and the function do seem very similar in terms of the flight. I will say the function maybe holds straighter just a little bit longer than the F9 before getting on that anhyzer angle and then just holding the turn. It was very subtle, but I will say it did feel like the function would kind of start its turn slightly later in its flight than the F9 would. Another major difference, at least when it comes with the function and the Diamond versus the F9, is that the function and Diamond really like to get to where they want to go very quickly. So they don't like to spend a large amount of time in the air. They feel very fast as when you release it to when they hit the ground. Versus the F9, which feels like it just wants to float as slowly as it can to its destination. I feel like every time I throw it, I could go and make a sandwich and then come back before it actually hits the ground. Now, obviously that is an exaggeration. However, I don't know. I just feel like the F9, because of how floaty it is, being an understable disc, yes, you're not really going to want to throw it in any kind of wind whatsoever. But even in calm to mild windy days, I just feel like it's going to affect the F9 more than the Diamond or the function, just because the fact it does kind of like to just float and hang in the air a little bit longer, allowing the wind to really mess with it just a little bit more. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and smash that like button. I personally love the function. I was begging the F9, and I can tell you right now the function has taken its place. It feels so good for my grip. It flies incredibly well, so understable. I can always trust that it's going to turn no matter how bad I'm throwing that day. And I love it in the woods for those hyzer flips, patent pending shots. It just gets so much use. Thank you again, everyone, for the support, and if you need to get a new disc, be sure to visit GreatLakesDisc.com, use code LEFTY to save 10%. I greatly appreciate it. Until the next one, keep banging chains.